Because I've been curious about it for a while, I finally sat down and watched the live-action Dora the Explorer movie, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, which is actually from 2019. I felt like it was older than that, like maybe 2018, 2017, but it's actually really recent. And I gotta say, it is pretty good. It might even be the best animation to live-action adaptation I've ever seen. It's very true to the source material. It is kind of more like a parody, like it makes fun of the original show in some ways. So overall, it's like just really cute and self-aware. It takes this approach where Dora, as the main character, is treated like she is the Dora from the cartoon, like very literally. She's just a super peppy, optimistic girl who just loves culture and history and exploring and learning and all that. And then she gets thrown into like a fish out of water scenario because she has to go to a city and go to high school with Diego, who I guess is a bit out of character because he's trying to be a high schooler. And she doesn't fit in, but she also like doesn't really understand why she doesn't, and she doesn't even care because she's just so optimistic and interested in her own little world. So she is a really cute and fun character here. Like that sort of trope of somebody who's painfully optimistic and just has to deal with all sorts of people that are normal people, I guess, is a really fun concept that I like to see. They didn't take any sort of approach where it's like, this is the live action Dora, so she has to be a cheerleader and she has to be really cool, like a Laura Croft character going on big adventures. No, she's just goofy Dora, goofy cartoonish Dora, but in live action. So the basic gist of the movie is that Dora ends up moving and attending high school and doesn't really fit in, but then eventually her, Diego, and two other kids from the school get roped up in a crazy adventure to find a lost Incan kingdom. So it becomes a basic adventure movie here with these fun characters that we get to see. Of course, there's Diego, and then there's like a nerdy boy and a popular girl, and I don't know their names. So overall, the movie is like primarily comedic, and it is pretty funny. It's not the best humor, but it's definitely comparable to something like a Teen Nick show. Very similar sort of humor to like iCarly and stuff. Although much more oriented toward kids and with a lot of slapstick going on, and you know, a few poop and fart stuff. But I mean, that doesn't really bother me because I can understand the age group that some of these things are aimed towards. There's smarter jokes to make than that kind of stuff, but it doesn't kill anything that it's here. It kind of has to be because it's a kid's thing. There's only like a few jokes that made me like kind of wince, like that wasn't very funny, but there's other stuff that's like, you know, cute, didn't really make me laugh. And then there's some jokes in here that did actually get me to laugh. Back to comparing this to something from Teen Nick. Overall, the movie does kind of seem like it's more of a TV movie than a theatrical movie. Something about the set designs and the camera angles, and especially even the CG, makes me kind of think that it was intended for TV originally or something. Because it just doesn't look necessarily that polished. Something like this, the CG doesn't really have to be that good. The sets are all good, all the jungle locations and stuff are alright. But Boots, for example, he looks ridiculous. I mean, Boots' movements and everything are pretty cartoonish, which I can appreciate, but I don't know, he could have been stylized better and just like textured better and stuff. Surprisingly, Swiper the Fox is actually in this movie for some reason. I don't know why I had like this vague idea going into the movie that he was in it, but like it was a human who got turned into a fox or something. But to my surprise, he's literally just in the movie and he's just Swiper the Fox and he talks and like that's it. There's like no explanation for it. Nobody in the movie is bewildered by the fact that there's just a talking fox that is helping the bad guys. Like there's no explanation for why he's helping the bad guys or anything. There's no backstory or anything. And Boots doesn't even talk, so it's like if Boots isn't gonna talk, why the heck is Swiper just like a human and then nobody cares? But like, that doesn't need an explanation. The fact that it's just like that, to me, is really funny. And that's kind of the intention, I guess. One of my favorite jokes in the movie was after they first found Swiper, one of the characters said like, why is he wearing a mask? He's a fox, he doesn't need to hide his identity, he'll just look like any other fox. I thought that was funny. I do admittedly really wish that they used him more in the movie. He was kind of only in like 3 scenes as like the major sort of antagonist of the situation, and other times he's just kind of in the background. There's some good slapstick comedy that comes out of him. They should have really taken more advantage of him. Honestly, I think the idea of having him be in this movie with like no explanation is so funny that I wish they just went all out on that sort of idea. They should have introduced even more weird cartoony CGI characters and stuff like from the show. Like have the troll from under the bridge show up at some point. Because I think the humor in this movie was definitely working the best when it was being either really goofy or like completely self-aware. What else was there? There's a scene pretty early in the movie where Dora needs to jump across a huge cliff to reach an artifact. and she misses the jump completely and falls down the cliff. And it's like an extremely deep cliff, and you hear her land, and she's like, I'm okay. And it's like that's just so cartoonish. She would be dead. Like, a lot of the peril present in this movie does not make any sense to be peril if Dora is somehow able to survive a ginormous fall like that onto rocks. It's just straight up cartoon logic, and that's great. Like, I've seen these clips sort of trend around, but there's a lot of times where, like, Dora's talking directly to the audience like she does in the show. Like, you know, can you say dog? Like, stuff like that, and it's really funny. It's really funny the way the other characters react to it, because it's like, it just makes no sense. Why would she do that? But she just does it because it's funny. It's just like a parody sort of joke. There is a very brief 2D animated scene that calls back to the TV show. And I knew there was something like that in the movie because some people talked about it, but I didn't expect it to be as grandiose as it was. There's a scene where the characters get gassed by these weird plants and they start to hallucinate, so they see the world in the style of the original cartoon. And like, wow, I really didn't think that scene was going to end up lasting as long as it did. But they really go hard on it. The animation there is really good, and it has a ton of cute references to the cartoon. Like, I'm just very pleasantly surprised. That's what attention to the source material means, even if it's just sort of like, how else can we get the cartoon into the movie without it being a hallucination scene? Like, I don't know, that's the only thing they could have done. But the fact that they did it, and they went really hard on making it look really pretty, and like including a bunch of cameo appearances from the show, is really sweet. I mean, like, you know, it's Dora the Explorer. You wouldn't think that they would do callbacks to the cartoon, but they really go hard on some of them here. I would say even the cutest reference in the movie is a super quick little thing that's after the credits. That made me smile. There's a little thing from the show that I forgot about, and they just pull it up for a little thing at the end credits, and I was like, oh, that's cute, I forgot about that. Because, you know, everybody's watched Dora at least a little bit. I probably have not seen it since I was like in elementary school, but I watched a good amount of it as a kid because it was basically always on. So I have like a good amount of nostalgia and recognition for it. I was just really more so curious about how they would handle making a live-action Dora the Explorer movie, and what they do here is probably the best thing that they could have done. Nowadays, you would have expected them to make it a really stupid, taking itself too seriously, Tomb Raider parody type of thing, but they make it a Dora the Explorer live-action parody of the cartoon. If you didn't know, it's a little bit of recent news that the Powerpuff Girls is getting a CW TV show live-action adaptation. But it's going to be a sequel with a very edgy approach where the girls are all grown up and they're in high school and they're really upset about their past, like how they wasted their childhood fighting supervillains. Like, I think that's literally what the description was that they're angry that they wasted their childhood or something. Like, are you kidding me? Why would they do that for Powerpuff Girls? It's so stupid. It's such a wasted opportunity because they could do what this Dora the Explorer movie does, but with Powerpuff Girls, where it's just a goofy live-action callback to the show, or parody of the show. Imagine even they take like a Scott Pilgrim vs. the World movie approach and have all sorts of cool comic book visual effects and stuff. That would be perfect for Powerpuff Girls. And that's why I feel like this Dora movie is one of the best animation live-action adaptations that is out there. It's definitely possible to make an animation live-action adaptation that doesn't have to be a parody like this movie sort of is. Like, for example, a lot of Japanese works do this all the time where animes will get a live-action drama adaptation, or even stage plays, and those just kind of relay the same plot as the anime, but in live action. They don't like try to parody it or make significant changes. But a lot of time with Western media, because animation is assumed to be a kid-oriented thing, whenever they have to adapt it into live action, they either try to make it for adults by making it all edgy like that Powerpuff Girls thing I was talking about, or they don't really even do this like ever. This is kind of the first example of this I've seen where they do this Dora approach, and it's just a fun parody, sort of aimed at kids, but also sort of aimed at families all around, and just taking a lot of aspects from the original cartoon. You know, there's stuff like Yogi Bear and the Smurfs, where it's like the characters come into the real world and like meet humans and stuff, but I don't know, that's like a different genre. Those are cute, but that's not an adaptation. Really, that's like a weird, I don't know, like alternative version of the source material. Because something like that could have easily been animated. Something like this Dora movie is deliberately being funny and goofy the way it is because it's live action. But I do really want to see some sort of cartoon adaptation someday that is a good adaptation, because it just wouldn't change anything. Like, take from the cartoon as much as you can. Another great example of this sort of is the Spongebob Broadway musical. Like, yeah, that's a musical, so it's different than like a live action TV show, but the ways that they used like cartoon logic in that stage play was really adorable and creative. And that's the kind of thing that if they were gonna live action adapt SpongeBob for whatever reason, they should take that approach. Instead of making it too real, they should really just keep the goofiness all there. Like, why do you think the Disney Marvel movies work so well? At the end of the day, aren't those just adaptations of cartoon comic books? Those movies are hugely popular, and why? Because they get the care and respect they deserve from the source material from creative minds. They're brought to the big screen using story and characters taken mostly directly from the books. All the movies are really doing is just providing a new visual avenue for those stories that have been around for a really long time. A lot of people have nostalgia for the comic books, so it's creating nostalgic entertainment for grown comic book fans, but also younger people who don't really know the original comics at all still get to watch the movies because they're really quality movies that are really exciting and don't rely on knowledge of the source material. TV cartoons and even video games really do deserve that exact type of treatment. It's so strange that studios just never get it right at all. They always try to do some spin on an adaptation, and it's like, no, for whatever reason, because at the end of the day, adaptations don't even need to exist. Everything could just stay animated. But if they feel the weird need to make a live action version of a cartoon, they should still just keep it really cartoony. And that's the way to make a good adaptation, and that's why I think this Dora movie is a really good adaptation and a very fun movie. And that's my final thoughts. If you haven't seen this movie yet, I think you should if you want something like, just to kind of turn your brain off and giggle at a few jokes. It's a really enjoyable time. It's one of the better things that I've seen from Nickelodeon in a while. Not that I even really pay much attention to Nickelodeon anymore. This was a surprisingly fun movie. I would say probably a B- rating. Just because it lacks a little bit in quality of writing and visuals, but it's got some good laughs and you can tell there's heart behind it, and it's just creative, again, to take this approach to Dora the Explorer. Instead of making it edgy, they just make it cute. And I really appreciate that and think it's a lot of fun to watch. So have you seen this movie before, or did I help make you interested in it? I would encourage you to check it out. Let me know your thoughts about this movie in the comments. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, and super special thanks to my Patreon supporters. Support me on Patreon and you'll be able to submit video topics, see exclusive behind the scenes content, and help me keep this channel going. Also follow me on Twitter and TikTok for special updates.